Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi. I think we're going to start the service tonight with our eyes maybe on the screen for a moment as we open with a text that I know will be brought into even further into the light through our teacher tonight. But I'll just start us off by saying welcome and taking a deep breath. And Shabbat means you don't have to work in the regular ways anymore, but we can still set our intention for doing heart work. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, yadadai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, I must build this world. I must build this world from love. And you must build. And you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. God will build this world with us. Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed Olam chesed
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So before we move formally into our service, just a few opening announcements. The first is that hopefully everyone's grabbed one of these books on their way in. If you haven't, you can find them to the front. Our usher this evening is Marty Baum, the president of our congregation. If you need bathrooms, they're outside to the right. Though all gender and handicap accessible bathrooms are through the office to the back. We've got hearing assisted devices through the office right to the right, and large print prayer books as you walk in to the left. If for some reason we need an emergency exit, of course, there's the exit you came in, but notice there's an exit here as well as an exit in the back. And finally, our goal tonight is to make sure that each of us can follow along, that we can sing, that we can pray, which means that if someone near you looks lost, they're not sure where we are on the page or in the prayer book, don't be shy about leaning over and showing them. Tonight is a special service. We're going to say more about that later, and we have a member of our congregation, Lisa Lisser, who's going to be giving the Devar Torah, the sermon this evening. It's the 100th anniversary of the Federation of Greater Metro West. Now, if you don't know what the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West is, by the time you leave tonight, you will. But the thing to understand is that this kind of umbrella organization, which convenes in this particular area all of the Jewish individuals, synagogues and nonprofits, and becomes this kind of clearinghouse for all, is a really extraordinary resource and institution. And so every synagogue this Shabbat, either tonight or tomorrow morning, you got a chance to pick, is going to, in their own way, celebrate the 100th birthday of the Federation. And so tonight, we're going to hear from Lisa, who's going to talk about the amazing things the Federation does. And then if you had signed up for a dinner, we have 4 different home-hosted dinners after services that people are going to, kind of to continue the conversation and continue community building. So with that, we're going to turn to page 24 as we join together. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barichuni L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitichem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Baruch.
So we're going to turn to page 2 and 3, and tomorrow we're going to call Max Littman up to become bar mitzvah. So in honor of that, I'm going to call him with his immediate family up to light our candles and lead us in Kiddush. Again, page 2 and 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
O source of light and truth.
One sec. First the bracha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'achava uvratzon hinhilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila l'migrae kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu lacharta, v'tanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat קודשך באהבה וברצון. הנהלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Take a seat. So as we've been doing each week, we add one of the traditional 7 Psalms, not all 7, but one, that are supposed to remind us kind of the week. And there's, before you sing the L'chadodi prayer, traditionally a psalm that's supposed to symbolize Sunday, then Monday, then Tuesday, all the way through, with the feeling that each time you do it, you're supposed to think with each psalm, where was I on each one of those days? Well, this is Psalm 97, one of those psalms, and since we're doing one as a stand-in for all 7, I'm going to invite us to think really about our week as we sing this unfamiliar melody. It's going to be new for me.
It's going to be new, and the text is right up there. Sion, hearing it, we are rejoicing and exalting. Shabbat is here. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Second part. Vatagena bnot Yehuda. Again. Vatagena bnot Yehuda. I think you've got it. Here we go. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Vatagena bnot Yehuda. Again. Vatagena bnot Yehuda. Shame'ah v'tismach.
Let's hear you.
Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Vatagena, Vatagena bnot Yehuda. Vatagena bnot Yehuda. Shame'ah v'tismach, Shame'ah v'tismach, Zion, Zion. Continue on page 20 in our Sidurim, L'chadodi. Na 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 na, L'chadodi, yai dai dai, ya la 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 la, likrat kala, ya la la la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat, nikabe, ya la 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 la, L'chadodi, yai dai dai, ya la 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 la, likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat, nikabela. Shamor v'zachor, b'dibor echad, hishmiyanu.
Let's hear you. Adonai, Adonai echad, ushmo echad, l'shemo tiferet, b'litchila. Yai nai nai, ya la 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 la, l'chadodi, yai nai nai, ya la 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 la, likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat, nikabela.
לכו ונלכה.
כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Let's hear you. Yai, nai, nai. Ya la 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 לך דודי. Yai, nai, nai. Ya la 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 לקראת כלה. Ya la 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 בני שבת. בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5, Hitorari. We rise together, verse 9.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, יאללה אליי, יאללה לה 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 לך דודי, יאללה אליי, יאללה לה 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה לה 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 פני שבת, פני שבת נקה. Once more, yada la 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 לך דודי, יאירה אירה, יאללה la 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 לקראת כלה, יאללה la 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 בני שבת, בני שבת נקבלה.
You remain standing, turning to page 28.
Join me.
Yai, nai, nai, yai, nai, nai, nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai,
yai,
nai, nai, yai, nai, nai, nai. Yai, nai, 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 nai.
ya la 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 ya la 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 la
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam le'olam va'ed.
We're seated together. Top of page 31. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Page 32.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אתה
Together.
תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן
Adonai Eloheinu בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה יומם ולילה
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל
Shema Yisrael
Adonai
Eloheinu Adonai
Echad
Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני
Adonai Elohechem.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We're on page 40. I feel like it's taken us a second, Cantor, but we found our voice.
I
as a
think we
congregation.
have. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So this is very much about the waves of sound flowing out to you and then flowing back up here. Really? There it is.
Together. Michamocha,
Ba'elim Adonai,
Ba'elim Adonai,
Mikamocha,
Mikamocha,
Nedar Bakodesh,
Nedar Bakodesh,
Nora,
top of page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai haporesu kat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen.
Page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם בריתותיו. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם בריתותיו. בני ובן בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם.
Let's hear you.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם בריתותיהם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתותיהם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש.
Together.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתותיהם.
We rise together, page 46, and we continue in silence after this opening meditation.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha.
Prayers keep flowing. We know what that daddy's prayers are right now, but there might be some others that we still have flowing inside of us here and in the Zoomiverse, the YouTubeverse. But really, there's nothing else that is quite as important as the prayer that's saved for the end of this silent section of prayer. The prayer that tells us that it's possible, that there is a source of wholeness out there beyond what we can see, and therefore there must be a way for us to be able to make it here. And we pray that we may know somehow a way there. Page 62.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
So, as we've been doing each week, we recite a special prayer for Israel, one that was actually written by a rabbinical student, Hannah Ellenson, a good friend of our student rabbi, James Fader, speaking about the many different aspects to this conflict and the many different ways that each of us are having it hit our hearts. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we ask that you bless the state of Israel and all of Israel's inhabitants. Makor Chaim, source of life, bless and strengthen those who defend the land and ensure their safe and speedy return home. Protect them and guide them. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Holy One of blessing, show Israel's leaders your paths so they may act with wisdom, courage, and dedication, and that they may be unwavering in their pursuit of peace. Strengthen their hearts, but keep their hearts from hardening. Adonai Poked, God who remembers, there are more than 100 people currently being held captive in Gaza who are thought to be alive, including Oded Lipschutz, age 83, Guy Gilboa Dalal, 22, Eviatar David, 23, Naama Levy, 19, Bipin Joshi, 23, Eden Alexander, 19, Nathan Pong Pinta, 35, Shiri Bibas, 32, Yarden Bibas, 34, and their sons Ariel, 4, and Kafir, who just turned 1. Matir Asurim, freer of captives, return all of those who are kidnapped safe and sound to their homes, without the spilling of more innocent blood, without any more souls being tarnished by horrific acts. Ba'al HaRachamim, master of compassion, help us hold the humanity and the heartache of the Jewish people and all of its residents in the state of Israel, while also holding the humanity and dignity of the Palestinian people. As we are made in your image, remind us of your ways. Spread over us a shelter of peace and fulfill the vision of your prophets. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall never again know war. Amen.
As we've done our private prayer, We also do a public prayer together, a prayer, a mishaberach, a prayer for those in need of healing. And I'll ask you to turn to page 253 and think of those names as I look around the room and add the names out loud in addition to the ones we'll see on the screen. Mishaberach avotenu vimotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say, Amen. Join me. Mishaberach avotenu mekor abracha limotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor abracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So in this week's Torah portion, we actually begin with Moses learning a really important lesson. He's just taken the people out of Egypt. He's begun marching them through the desert en route to the promised land. And he's now kind of standing underneath the foot of Mount Sinai. And while he's there, he actually gets a visit from his father-in-law. And his father-in-law watches as he basically tries to take the whole people on his own shoulders. He's sitting there as person after person comes to him with problem after problem, asking him for advice and for help. And he's burning out. And his father-in-law, Jethro, looks at him and basically says, you can't carry this burden by yourself. You need to ask for help. And Moses thinks about it and realizes that he's right. And from there, he basically creates a set of judges to be under him so that all the first kind of level problems will go to those judges, and only the really hard stuff they can't figure out gets kicked up to him. And from there, he gets just a little bit more work-life balance, figures things out a little bit better. Now, the moral of the story is the fact that we cannot do it alone. No single leader and no single institution can inherently carry the burden that is leadership of the Jewish people by itself. And I have to say that the synagogue is no different. No single synagogue is an island. We, by the way, rely on lots of different factors. We're part of a movement, for example. We are a connection of 900 Reform synagogues around the country, plus many other liberal synagogues around the world. We're also part and parcel of a kind of greater Montclair synagogue network, and we rely very heavily, actually, on the rabbis at BK and at Shomrei and in Cedar Grove to kind of be our sounding board and to do things with. But perhaps the biggest of the bolsters, the thing that holds us up the most, the thing that makes us feel less like an island, is the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West, for which we are celebrating their 100th birthday tonight. Now, if you came in late, I mentioned this at the very beginning, that every single synagogue in this whole catchment area, from up here down all the way to, Clark, and all the way over into Morristown, that's that catchment area, are all this Shabbat either having a Devar Torah or a program or a dinner in celebration of this amazing institution. And whether you realize it or not, the reason our synagogue is successful is because of, in part, the Federation. Now, the Federation, I've been thinking a lot about them, in part because they were here every minute a year ago. It's the 1-year anniversary this Shabbat of the firebombing at our congregation. And they were with us every step of the way. Their security team gave us advice. They immediately passed an emergency grant to make sure we could fill certain holes that were in our camera systems. They gave us really important advice when it came time for us to apply for the Homeland Security grant to harden our building. But that's just one piece of it. You may look outside and see that there's all kinds of art outside. That's because we've got a partnership with the JSDD, the Jewish Services for the Developmentally Disabled, who has a special kind of way center, it's called, which is an arts center that people with developmental disabilities go to during the day and do art. And they're actually going to be our guests next week. They're funded in part by the Federation, and we have their art as an art show. The Federation has helped us as we've had elderly congregants who need to be placed in nursing homes or in step-down units, and they've given us advice and helped us figure out what we need to do. Our teens are products of the Federation. They helped fund a position that Wendy Starr holds in our office. She is both our teen person and the assistant director of our religious school, and she's created a collective through the funds and hard work of the Federation to gather all the local teens together so that our teens don't feel like an island. Recently, she had an axe throwing event that got 100 teens, Jewish teens from the area to come to. Yes. There's so many more things, from support and grants to our preschool, to Jewish camps, and the fair that we threw and the help that they helped us to make sure that our students could find the right Jewish camps. The Federation has helped ensure that everything we do is successful because we are not an island. This summer, when we wanted to go to Israel, a trip that we had canceled because of the pandemic, we decided to go with the Federation. In part because we knew that the trip that they would run would give us access to things that I wouldn't be able to do on my own if I had just run a trip myself. And many people in this room were actually on that trip. Our synagogue would be a lot less vibrant without them. And so, in honor of them, they gave us the challenge to find a member of our congregation who was active, who knew about the Federation, who was connected with the Federation. And then they said, if you don't happen to have somebody, we'll send somebody your way. But we're lucky enough that we didn't actually need one of their staffers to come or one of their board members to come, in part because our member, Lisa Lisser, is so incredibly active and actually came to us in part through a little bit of the work that she was doing in the Federation, which led her to teach adult education classes, which led her to like the community enough that she decided to stay. And so it's my pleasure to invite her up to say a few words in honor of the Federation's 100th birthday.
Thank you so much. So, hi, everybody. So, there was a period of time when I was the Federation's poster girl. And I say that both literally and figuratively. So figuratively, because I had a lot of jobs with Federation, I was a lay leader, I was a volunteer, I did women's philanthropy, I was on Young Leadership, I was the chair of Young Leadership, I was on National Young Leadership Cabinet. I did a host of jobs. But I also went on a mission to Israel in 2007, and there was a photographer who was there to take all of the pictures. And he took a lot of pictures, and I was in them. And so for about 6 years following that trip, I was on every Lion of Judah catalog. I was on tzedakah boxes around the country, different pictures. I had and my Aunt Marilyn in West Hartford, she called me to say, Lisa, there's this girl in an army uniform on my foundation letterhead, and she looks just like you. And I said, yeah, Aunt Marilyn, that's me. I am literally the poster child. So thank you for inviting me. I also thought I would bring something as sort of like a memento. This trivet was given to my father in 1978. It was a Young Leadership Award that was given to everyone in that year for being a leader in the Federation. And it spoke to me today because we're talking about 100 years. And Federation has been part of my family a long time. And that's maybe almost half of 100 years. Not quite, but it speaks to the way that a federation can touch a family and touch a community and be part of what makes a community grow. And so I'm using the word federation, but back in the day, we said UJA. And UJA was about Israel. And Federation was more about local stuff. And I didn't always know where it all touched. But now we're together. But I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to go back 100 years, and we're talking about a centennial. And thinking about that, I'm thinking about numbers. So at the very beginning of the book of Exodus, we hear about numbers. 70 souls came with Jacob down to Egypt. And then we hear, in a few later pasukim, we hear that there were 600,000 men on foot, not counting the children, and a mixed multitude that left Egypt. And so we hear about how the community grows, and the community grows together, and the community goes together. And this is the power of numbers and why it's important to count. And again, just a few pasukim later, we hear that the people were in Egypt for 430 years. So now the amount of time matters. So if we go now and look at Federation that has been in Metro West New Jersey for 100 years, we can think about why that number is really important. 1923. In 1923, in Newark, New Jersey, a few men who were the leaders of the Jewish community back then got together and said, your agency and your agency and my agency shouldn't all be fundraising separately. We're going to be sort of hijacking each other, so let's collaborate. Because we need money for the immigrants, and we need money for the educators, and we need money for the Jewish Family Services and Jewish Vocational Services. Because remember, it's 1923. This is the end of the big wave of migration. And so the needs were really high. In fact, they were crushing. And so these men all got together and decided it was time to create this collaborative. And I'm not exactly sure if they called it a federation or if they called it something else. But they got together and they decided that we needed to be together on this. We needed to be a community. And that was really important because the next year, in 1924, with the Immigration Act of 1924, nationally they shut the door to immigration. And we had to take care of our own, and Jews weren't really going to be let in anymore. It was really remarkable. I looked it up, and that law cut down immigration to 2% of the number of people per nationality in 1890. From 1881 to 1924, like 40 million people came to the United States. 2 to 3 million of them were Jews, but the rest were from other nationalities. And so this was a huge diminishment. And so it didn't just impact Jews, but impacted everyone. But I'm here to talk about the Jews. So we had a federation. And the issues were different, but not that different. So immigration. Immigration is an issue today. It's a big issue. It might not be an issue for Jews, in America at least. Actually, it's not that big an issue for Jews that many places. I heard just yesterday, Dov Ben-Shimon, who's our CEO and executive VP, talked at a women's philanthropy board meeting, and he said, really, Jews around the world now can be rescued and saved by the international system pretty much anywhere. We're really only struggling for those 130 Jews who are in Gaza right now. But around the world, the system of the JDC and the Jewish Agency and all the other agencies that are also funded through the national and international federation system, they can be rescued. But the rest of the immigration that we're talking about in the United States, we've got a problem. But the federation works together to deal with those problems. We lobby on issues of immigration. And we're there because we know how to do it. We did it before. And these are issues that are important to the Jewish community, and they touch other communities. So we're not insular when we're talking about the federation. If an issue touched the Jewish people, it's going to touch another people. None of the agencies that start with the J are only for people who start with the J. That's another thing that people don't always realize. If we're talking about Jewish Family Service or Jewish Vocational Service, it's not just for Jewish people. In fact, Jewish Vocational Service primarily serves immigrants who are not Jewish or other people who live in the country who are not Jewish but who need special support. So that's something that we can learn from what we're doing now that looks similar to what we did maybe 100 years ago. Other issues that are big and hard, anti-Semitism today. So we talked about it. It's big. It's like a Pandora's box that we've never seen in our generations. It's been big before. And we know that as a federation system, we can educate, we can train, and we can teach. So just last week, our JCRC, which is the Jewish Community Relations Council, took a mission of legislators and educators who were not Jewish, most of whom were not Jewish, to Israel for a 4-day mission to see what was happening on the ground so they could learn firsthand what it really meant on October 7th. And as a result of that mission, 2 legislators, one Democratic and one Republican, who are assembly people in New Jersey, are introducing a new bill or piece of legislation. I wrote it down in my notes, but my notes are here not. So, but they wrote a piece of legislation, so there will be a resolution to support Israel in this. And that's because they saw it firsthand, and they never saw it before. But because Federation is here, we're able to do that and educate people who just might not have it as present as we have it. And that's important. So what else? I want to talk about happy things. It's not just the oi, it's the joy. So right, as part of the Federation, 2 days ago, I was able to participate with 180 of my closest friends. I don't know all of them, no, but it was 180 women. We did a challah bake, or actually a challah braid, with the challah prince who came in and taught us how to braid 6-strand challahs all together in a great room at Temple B'nai Abraham in Livingston, so we could see what it was like to feel the presence of being with 180 women all together, doing one thing all together. And that was phenomenal. And what we also do, Cradle to Grave, we have PJ Library, which delivers books to 4,000 kids who are young from like 0, I think, to 5. And then Rabbi Mark talked about Jewish camping. We have camperships. So One Happy Camper allows Jewish families to send kids with a scholarship to sleepaway camp. So it's powerful. And it's about building Jewish identity and Jewish souls. And so I probably am talking over my limit. I didn't think I would, but I just want to add that I was able to find my Jewish soul in the last 25 years by volunteering through Federation. You know, I thought that I was fine. I was raised a nice Jewish girl. I knew how to daven, I thought. But it wasn't until I started volunteering and getting to know all the different things I could learn and learning all the things I didn't know so I could get excited about learning more. And that was powerful to me. I think about the very first job I was asked to do in Federation. I had just moved back to New Jersey. I had lived in the city for 12 years. I just moved back. And I got a phone call from the then president of the Women's Philanthropy to chair an event. And I said, I can't, I'm new. She said, oh, it's for new women. And I said, but I never chaired an event before. She said, oh, we'll help you. I said, I don't want to ask anyone for money. She said, oh, don't worry, this is an outreach event. We're not asking for money. And I was like, fine. It was like I gave every excuse because I didn't think I could do the job, even though I knew I would ultimately do the job. Like, I wasn't quite as objecting as Moshe, you know, in whatever. But all I have to say is that this is a great community, and it created a great space for me, for my Jewish identity, but also for all of us. And what I said on the first mission that I chaired, when you do things together in community, you create a holy space. And I think that's what happened for all of us at Mount Sinai, which we read about this week, just tomorrow, that when the Jewish people were together at the foot of Mount Sinai, they created a makom kadosh, a holy space. They received revelation, they met God face to face. And when we are in community, when we are seeing each other, when we are doing community face to face, that is a makom kadosh. So, hooray, Federation, we're 100 years old for an ad, mea v'asrim, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Lisa. Jewish life and Jewish living are just made up of the lessons and the stories, but also the institutions that are the building blocks. And so we join together tonight really in celebrating one of those building blocks, one of those institutions. And we're going to move now into our closing section of our service as together we rise for Aleinu, page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigaye haratzot, velo samanu kamishbachot adama, shelo samchelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'ana ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We're seated together. Our thoughts now turn to those who we have loved and who we have lost. As I recite your loved one's name, I'll invite you to rise, honoring their memory, and remain standing. Anna Appel, Fred Balk, Morris Bellett, Francis Berg, Sarah Best, Blanche Bianco, Dorothy Blackman, Helen Bronstein, Deborah Busin, Isidore Shavat, William Chobursky, Philip Cooper, Joseph Ebel, Jeff Edinburgh, Koresh Ezati, Meryl Flaum, Alice Friedland, Jacob Friedland, Dorothy Friedman, Martha Fritz, Jerry Gershinoff, Melvin Green, Clara Greenberg, Stanley Greenwald, Mark Gross, Rose Hertzberg, Ira Mark Hipper, Selma Hirsch, Samuel Indek, Leah Kahaner Weinstein, Jacob Kaplan, Alvin Kosak, Jay Kravitsky, Sophia Laria, Edith Mandel, Stephen Markstein, Steffi Maurer, Isidore Meshover, Loretta Miller, Lillian Morris, David Newworth, Cecilia Ollinger, Mitchell Rubin Perlmutter, Irving Paulin, Doris Pollock, Chris Ristiano, Matt Roth, Sidney Royal, Leo Sakharov, Henrietta Shiner, Merrill Shapiro, Ruth Kane Shapiro, Gerald Shea, Paul Sherman, Howard Sherman, Anna Shubes, Sam Silverman, Shirley Siskin, Jack Smoger, Teresa Solomon, Minnie Spitz, Harry Starr, Melvin Traum, Josephine Troy, Abraham Weinberg, Elsie Weiselman, Yetta K. Wien, Sylvia Whitlin, and Mary Wojak. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning, Iris Shavitz, grandmother of Jessica Deacon, Lynn Pogge, sister of Matthew Pogge, Carol Janice Manel, mother of Jill Manel, Rosalind Engelmeyer, mother of Malky Sinetsky, Melinda Melman Siegel, cousin of Bob Melman, and June Melman, sister-in-law of Bob Melman. I'll invite anyone who's observing a yard site that might not have been on this list or who is observing within their 1 year of losing someone to please recite the name of your loved one now. We rise together as a community. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yamad divrach yiratei v'yamlech malchutei, v'chayei achon u'v'yom achon u'v'chayei techo Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei amaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitmamam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal
לשמד דקדושה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן ביולמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום ברמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו. Please be seated. So a few quick announcements. The first is thank you, by the way, to our hosts for, as I mentioned, there's a few Shabbat dinners happening in honor of the Federation that people signed up for ahead of time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, read your emails. So I want to thank the Lavenda Traum family, the Chipkin family, the Pollock family, and the Baum family for hosting those dinners that people are currently going to. Tomorrow morning, Torah study at 8:30 a.m. We are blessed to have Max become bar mitzvah at 10. 10:30 is our Tot service, our wake up Shabbat.
9
and-
a.m. is Jewish yoga practice.
Yes, thank you. We
Bring your
have
own
Jewish
mat.
yoga at 9 a.m. That's really a wonderful program, and we hope you can join us for that as well. And then tomorrow night is our gala. So if you're celebrating with us, we can't wait to dance with you. Then we have a series of really wonderful Shabbats coming up. Next week, in honor of Jewish Inclusion and Disability Month, we are welcoming some of the residents from that Way Center, from the Jewish Services for the Developmentally Disabled, some of the artists who did some of the art that's outside, and we're going to hear from them as part of services and celebrate the Way Center and learn about inclusion within the Jewish community. And then we are sad to see our beloved Mayor Leon go, who's been here for over 20 years as the administrator of our religious school. And so we're going to honor her on the 23rd. And so come, we'll have a festive oneg, we'll say some nice words about her, we'll put out a microphone outside and say some other nice words about her, open the floor for people to
We'll
say some
watch
nice words
her,
about
like,
her. Yes,
hover
she
like
hates to be the
this.
center of attention. And so we will make her the center of attention that night. And then the week after that, so first week in March, is our Scholar in Residence weekend. And we've got a really wonderful scholar. It's Bishop Malchus, who actually,
Songolashvili.
yes, we've never had someone who is from another faith be our Scholar in Residence, but he's the bishop who started that 3-religion center in the country of Georgia, Tbilisi, Georgia, for which we've had that relationship. And he also happens to teach religion at the university level, including Jewish studies classes. He knows more about Judaism than I do. And so he's going to come and be our Scholar in Residence, but also talk about interreligious dialogue and all of that. And we've got a whole weekend of programming planned around
And
him.
he looks a little like Dumbledore.
Yes,
I said that to him, so he knows. He knows.
yes. So plenty of other stuff happening. I just want to give one more event, actually 2 more event plugs, I'm sorry. On the afternoon of the 11th, which is Sunday, we've got a nonprofit coming to B'nai Keshet, the synagogue in one of the synagogues in Montclair. We're co-sponsoring the event. It's called A Land for All. And basically, the nonprofit's point is to think about creative solutions to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And so we know that eventually this war will end. And the day after the war ends, the goal is to start working toward long-term solutions and peace. And so they're a nonprofit that's starting to think about what are the different models for what that might look like. And then the next day, Mikey Sherrill, who is our representative in Congress, is going to be here interviewed by Jim Axelrod from CBS News. And the topic is going to be anti-Semitism. What is she doing? What's the national government doing? What's local government doing? Basically, what can be done about rising anti-Semitism all over the map, on the left, on the right, in college campuses, out on the streets. And she's going to, as kind of one of the real thought leaders in this area, going to be addressing that. So, lots going on. So with that, we are
With
going to
that,
conclude.
Thank
Olam
you.
Chesed
Olam
Yibaneh.
Chesed Yibaneh. Thank you to Bob Melman and, of course, to Lisa for reminding us of the relationship. I also grew up as a total Federation Nick in South Florida. Anyway.
Olam Chesed Yibaneh Yarara Yarara Yidai Olam Chesed Yibaneh Yarara Ira 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 Olam Chesed Yibaneh Yarara Ira Ira Yarara Ira
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Come
shalom.
have some cookies. Mazal tov. See you in the morning.